So we've cleaned up our wheel. We have 3 new questions on it. I have no idea what they are because I didn't put them there. So let's find out what we're going to talk about today. Oh, excellent. What does "I release my word" mean? And that's something that you will often hear in the 5th step of a science of mind treatment. I release my word. So somehow, Spirit's going to figure out how to weave that into a talk about principles before personalities. Can't wait to find out what I'm going to have to say. Let's take a breath together. So we are beginning to wrap up our 2025. First thing first. Focus. And today we are doing the first part of an exploration of the 12th tradition of recovery, which says that, I want to get this correct, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principle before personalities. And so it's interesting to me that it begins with, we're talking about a program that involves people, lots of people, lots of personalities. 12 steps, 12 traditions, and yet it makes this bold statement at the end that anonymity is the spiritual foundation. The foundation is what everything else is built on. I find it interesting that the foundation isn't even mentioned until the 12th tradition. Right? For me, I was like, wonder why they did that. I will never know because they're not here. I can't ask them. I just find it interesting. But that anonymity is the spiritual foundation. Not a physical foundation, the spiritual foundation. Anonymity. So it begs a deep exploration of what anonymity actually means. Right? And I submit to you that anonymity is way more than just not mentioning somebody's name. That your name is just one part of who you are. But that true anonymity, perhaps, is letting go of every identity you carry in this physical realm. Amos said, what? If Jamie were here, we would hear something from the "oh crap" corner. Some ministers have an amen corner. I have an "oh crap" corner. And I love it. Right? But perhaps true anonymity in the spiritual realm is to understand that everything we understand ourselves to be in this physical realm is a limitation. It is not the truth of our being.
Talk about profound.
Right? We talked about the I am. And that the reason it is just the I am is because that's what it is. Doesn't have an identity separate from that. It just is. Parmenides, the oldest fragment of philosophy that we have, that we recovered from when the schools of philosophy were destroyed, simply says that which is shall never be proven as not. Right? In science of mind, we refer to the infinite as self-existent. And what that actually means is that it exists from itself, within itself, as itself. It's not made from anything else. Right? When we look for what created consciousness, there's no answer. Everything is created out of it. It has always been. The quantum field, energy. What created it? You got me. Science can't figure it out either. Because it simply has always been. It is self-existent. Nothing made it. And that perhaps the truest anonymity lies there. That everything it made, everything made out of consciousness, has identities. But those identities, personalities, if you will, limit us from an unfettered experience of the truth of our being. It gives us permission to put God, creation, life, whatever we call it, one step outside of ourselves. That God is God and I'm Rafe. Right? And the spiritual truth is this is God as Rafe. This is consciousness as Rafe. Consciousness as Dana. Consciousness as Megan. And how do we let go of our attachment to who Rafe is, to who Dana is, to who Megan is? That's the journey. Right? All of those times when we're engaged in something that we know is not working on our behalf, much less on the behalf of anybody else, and we default to that, well, that's just how I am. Stop lying. I heard you. Every time I say something like that, Reverend Bishop Flunder, City of Refuge in Oakland, California, I hear her. Stop lying. Stop lying. That's not who you are. That's not just how you are. That is learned behavior. That is who you've been conditioned to believe you are. But that is not who you are. That's a snippet. Okay? Once upon a time, we were unable to do anything other than lay there and eat and poop and pee. That's all we did. And then we started making noises, and then we started wiggling around. But it's, nothing is just how we are. When we got here, we didn't have any of that stuff. Right? We didn't have that. You looked at your foot with awe and wonder. You had no, what is this? In my crib with me. Right? You didn't even know it was yours. Right? That might possibly be more truth of who we are than our political affiliations and our educational degrees and our marital status. I'm just saying. Can you imagine? Can you lean into at least waking up every day with that sense of, wow, it's a brand new baby day. And in the truth of life, you don't have a clue what's going to happen. You think you do. You've made all kinds of plans. Anybody got plans for Christmas? You think you know what's going to happen. No, you don't. No, you don't. And if we lean into, we make plans, but we don't really know what's going to happen, we can stop being angry when something different happens. We can actually live in a state of, didn't see that coming. We can live in a state of preparation to respond from spiritual principle as spiritual principle in form. That's what's available to us. But it becomes instantly unavailable the minute we start restricting our own identity. The minute God is outside of us and we have to go find God to get help to deal with this. Right? There used to be a movement of bracelets. What would Jesus do? Right? And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend, just for your own laughter, Google or go into YouTube and put in, what would James do? It's a brilliant comedian that did a takeoff on what it must have been like to be Jesus' brother James. It's hysterical. It's absolutely hysterical. Right? And I bring that up to offer us, what would you do? What would Rafe do? What would Miss Evelyn do? Who cares? Who cares? What if we only ever ask, what does consciousness do? What is consciousness doing? How does consciousness want to respond to consciousness? See, when we're in those spaces where we're trying to respond to something, it's so easy to separate. Right? Suddenly it's not one thing. Because if we really get that it's one thing, let's for the ease of conversation, call it God. God's causing problems for God, being God. How does God want to respond to God's problematic side? Really? How come God doesn't like God showing up like God? Because if it's only one thing, folks, anonymity is the spiritual foundation. Doesn't matter who, how it's showing up. Doesn't matter the personality or the package. Are we willing to do the work to lean into living life from that perspective that we say we believe that there's only one of us here, and actually act like it, to treat each other like it? Now, admittedly, I have a carve-out for those expressions of the divine that I don't get. Because there's some I don't get. And the most holy thing that I can do, that I have arrived at to do, more accurately right now, is to simply go, well, aren't you an interesting way for God to show up? Because at least I'm not condemning them. It keeps me open. It reminds me that they are God in form. And it helps the human part of me that wants to engage in ugly behavior remember that there's only one of us here. And in my more centered, aligned moments, and I see something horrific, I ask myself, why did I just do that? Why did I do that? Why did I just shoot those people? Why did I carjack that man? Why did I do that? Because if there's only one of us here, and I'm letting go of all sense of separation, then there's only one of us here. And the power that gives us actually ties into this release of my word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's what this is talking about. It's not talking about the words, the dictionary words. It's talking about our beliefs. It's talking about our thoughts. You could do spiritual mind treatment, and you could say the moon is made out of green cheese and paper mache. Wouldn't matter what you say. What matters is what you believe. Right? You can lie all day long. That's not what's getting released. What's getting released is what you believe. That's what's getting released. In the beginning was the Word, synonymous with consciousness. And the Word was with God, all of it, and the Word was God. So we can throw the Bible out. We can throw it out if we want, just because we don't like how certain theologies show up. Or we can understand that there's wisdom everywhere. Are we willing to find it? Right? The very concept of God in this thing of anonymity is a limitation. That's why the original Hebrew, the first verse in Genesis, which by the way is not chronologically the first book written. It's just the first book that Constantine's Council on Nicaea decided to put first when they made the Bible. But the original Hebrew does not say, in the beginning God created. It says, in beginning, referring to the infinite, created God. That's very different. The infinite, the unnameable, the I am, created God. God is an expression. God is an idea. God is a name that makes it tangible for us to talk about. And even that is not its identity. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation. I don't know why all the Bible stuff is coming up, but here it is. Moses, right? We touched on this last week, I think. When Moses had the experience with the burning bush, his humanity is like, who are you? And what did he get back? I am. Which is simply saying, I exist. Yeah, but who are you? Other people are going to ask me who you are. What am I supposed to tell them? I am that I am. You tell them what I just told you, knucklehead. That I just am. But see, we want definitions. Ernest Holmes talks about this in our text. How we argue for our limitations. We argue for them. We're invested in having them. Right? We claim them. We pound them into the ground. We put flyers on them. We argue for our limitations. Why? Because we think that's the truth of our being. It's not. No label you can put on yourself will ever accurately, completely, adequately define you. The gift of our current government administration, for me, as a transgender human being, is exactly that. See, because when the country you live in begins to pass legislation for the sole intent of erasing your identity, you are forced to look at how tied you are to your identity. I hope none of you ever has to do that, because it's not fun. But here's the gift, is that exploration has awakened me to the reality. You can pass whatever laws you want. You can put anything you want on paper. You can take away my medical coverage. You can come take my body and put it in a prison. You can kill my body. But you cannot touch my identity. I am not a label. I am not an anomaly. I am a one of a kind, intentional, never again to be repeated desire of the I am to be who I am. And so are you. I invite you, stop limiting your experience of you with all the labels. Stop limiting your experience of everybody else with all the labels. I'm not saying go huddle up next to people that have physically harmed you in this world. Not at all. Sometimes we have to love people from a distance, and if we're telling the truth, sometimes we love the distance between us. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a smart thing. It's what I do up here that hurts us. It's what I tell myself about you. It's all the labels I put on you that hurt us. And we're conditioned to do it. So there's a lot of unraveling to do to really claim this anonymity piece. All right? Because we are taught, right? From that little baby exploring its foot, right? If a person tells a lie, we assign an identity to them as a liar. Rather than speaking accurately, that's a human being that told a lie. We assign an identity. Stop it. We have thieves and crooks and criminals and addicts because we just keep assigning identities based on behavior. If we really believe change your thinking, change your life, we have to understand that changing one's life will change one's behavior. Now where do we fit all of the frickin' labels? They still are a person that told a lie. What happens is we won't let them change. That's what happens. We're so fixated on the label. We come up with arguments to support our labels. You know, a leopard can't change its spots. We argue for our limitations. And we negate our own belief. So here's the final thing I'm going to say about this whole thing of releasing your word. And if this doesn't snap you into a deeper spiritual practice, I don't know what will. Every thought you have, every breath you take, every belief you hold is a prayer. It is impossible. We say, I release my word to remind us that that's what just happened, but newsflash. If you don't say it, it doesn't mean your word didn't release. There's no way to not release it. There is no way that you get to have a belief or a thought that the creative process ignores or fails to say, got it, yes, manufactured, done. That, beloveds, is how it works. Every thought, even the ones that, oh, I didn't really mean that. I get it. So I invite you to pause in those moments and at least silently within your own mind, speak what you do mean into being. Because the activity of law is mechanical. It doesn't have a filter. It doesn't have a personality. The activity of law is perhaps the greatest example of anonymity. It has no identity. It is simply a functional doer. Doesn't care. Doesn't have the ability to care. Doesn't filter, doesn't notice, doesn't even know what it's responding to. It just says, got it, done. That's it. So let that sit with you. Not from a place of guilt, but from a place of, oh Lord, I need to clean up what I'm adding to the soup. We can't take things out of the soup once it's in, but we can add more things to help correct the flavor. If you got too much salt, I'm going to end with this. Sidebar cooking tip. If you have too much salt, add potatoes. They absorb the salt. It just works. All right, let's take this into prayer. I recognize the breath is life breathing itself as me. That this one everything that is no thing and yet is simultaneously everything and more, infinite possibility unformed and everything that is formed. All this one energy, this one power, this one life, this one consciousness, this one substance, expressing itself in the multiplicity of form. Desire made physical. To experience itself as. And yet it is never separate from itself. Nowhere to separate to. In the wholeness, in the truth of one, there is no other place. There is no other. So I know that I am that in form. I know that I am the I am expressing as I am. And that while identities certainly aid in the navigation of this physical realm, I stand in the truth that I am none of those. That I am the I am expressing exactly as I am. By design, by intention, by desire. That this expression of the infinite, as every expression of the infinite, is the expansion of the infinite, expressing itself in form. And so what is true of one is true of all. And so I claim and affirm an awareness, a tangible experience of the wholeness of life. That every interaction I experience as holy, as sacred. And that I show up as the I am. That I do the work to let go of all of the barriers, all of the labels, all of the restrictions, all of the limitations, and stand boldly, courageously, until it is so natural that it requires no courage to simply be I am. And to love every expression of the I am as exactly that. To let everybody else out of their box. To be that presence where people are healed simply by being in our presence. And I am grateful. I am grateful for that activity that I call law. That blind mechanical doer that doesn't even know what it does. It just simply does it. No matter what I give it. And life reflects back to me what that is. Empowering my choice over and over again. And so knowing that my word is the infinite speaking itself into being. It is the infinite itself speaking. I do the only thing I can, and that's remind myself that it's already been acted upon. Law has already said yes. It's already made manifest. There is no waiting period. And so I remind myself that every thought is a prayer. Every thought is released. Every belief is my word, which is the word of the one made manifest. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amen. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.